coalition of voters he brings to the table, because, again, he lost last time by 6 million votes. So I would ask, who is that for? What we just saw right there. If you are, again, a normal person, which most Americans are, who are living their lives and don't live in the dark corners of the internet, you'd have no clue what he's talking about. Who's eating dogs in Springfield, Ohio? What are you talking about? Not to mention that it's a complete lie, that it was manufactured, that the person who took the photograph came out yesterday and said, that wasn't in Springfield. I didn't know who that guy was. I don't know if he's an immigrant or where he's from. I just thought it was weird. A guy was walking down the street with a goose. So who is he talking to? Who is he talking to?
You just said? You just said that the morning after a presidential debate. And again, there was a guy walking down the street with a goose. I don't know why he was walking. And so that's where Donald Trump has taken the Republican Party. Yeah. That's where Donald Trump has taken entire cable news networks. That's where Donald Trump has taken his online community of supporters. They have to support that madness.
Yeah, it's he did nothing, among many other things he did poorly last night, did absolutely nothing to attract new voters. And not just because of the ridiculous answer about dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, Mika, but because of his answer on abortion, because of his answers about whether or not he won the 2020 election. He claims he believes still that he did, on abdicating himself of any responsibility for what happened in January 6th and showing affinity for people who went to the Capitol, desecrated it, beat up cops, saying he's not going to root for Ukraine to win, that obviously he sides with Vladimir Putin, siding with other dictators like Viktor Orban. I could go on and on and on. But the point of the exercise here is to try to win a general election. He did nothing to add new voters last night.
Yeah, when you're bragging that Viktor Orban is your bud, and that's the only one you can name, it's a problem. Jonathan Lemire, KDK, still with us and join the conversation. We have MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle, NBC News and MSNBC political analyst, former U.S. Senator Claire McCaskill, working round the clock, literally, president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton, the host of the podcast On Brand with Donnie Deutsch. Donnie Deutsch is with us, and Rogers Chair in the American presidency at Vanderbilt University. Historian Jon Meacham is with us, as well as senior political columnist for Politico, Jonathan Martin.
Let's start in Philadelphia. Jonathan, your takeaways from last night.
Yeah, Donald Trump was talking about things, as Willie said, that most Americans don't grasp. It's not just the dogs. And by the way, I can report that, at least here in Philadelphia this morning, that the dogs appear safe on the streets of Philadelphia. It's not just the dogs, though. How many Americans know who Viktor Orban is? Like, you're trying to win over folks in Erie, PA, La Crosse, Wisconsin, and Mesa, Arizona, and you're defending the Hungarian president. It just doesn't get him any new voters. And so I found that puzzling. And look, obviously, Kamala Harris was somebody who was always good off the script. But she's also good at something else, which is the preparations that a prosecutor makes before a case. And we saw that when she was a senator, when she grilled the Trump administration officials on the Hill. And that was the Kamala Harris that we saw last night. That figure who does extensive and intensive prep. She internalized probably 24 one-liners, and she got almost all of them out. She's a consultant's dream. I mean, you could almost see her going through the binder in her mind and flipping through those tabs and getting off line after line. So obviously she won the debate. I'm curious if Trump does a second one in October. The Harris camp obviously wants to, guys. I think that Trump will eventually succumb and do it. But obviously, he's going to actually have to do something next time, which he didn't do last night, which is prepare and not take the bait.
He just doesn't do it. He does not prepare. He's never
like
prepared.
ADHD
he
or
can't
something?
prepare. Again, staffers that worked with him in the White House said they couldn't even hand him one-page summaries because he wouldn't read them. He doesn't read. Somebody that does read, Jon Meacham, a historian, with us. John.
Yeah, what's the parallel?
Well, I mean, if you want, there is no parallel, I suppose, to a debate where you had one candidate as ill-prepared as Donald Trump talking about dog eaters, Viktor Orban, and phantom crime statistics. How do you get your arms around this? And what do you say to your friends in the men's grill with their Peter Millar vests who are going to try to sane wash this today?
Well, it's the Peter Millar problem. I think a couple of things. The vice president, I think, for 3.5 years was oddly and unfairly maligned in the first 3 years of her being in office as vice president. Then for the last month or so, I wondered whether she was disproportionately praised, again, with a lack of data. That problem is gone. She delivered a brilliant presidential performance last night. I think passed all the invisible tests about someone whom we could trust with the nuclear codes. I would put it to you and to my Republican friends, do you want to give the nuclear codes back to the dog-eating guy? Now, there's a sentence that actually I don't think Dean Acheson ever uttered. So I think we're in that zone. Is a very clear choice. I will say, and I think this is important in what's going to be, I don't want to say euphoric day about those who believe in the Constitution and saw in Trump and the former president last night an example, a vivid manifestation of why we don't want that. Remember, Vice President Harris has now passed her test. We're now on trial. It's the American people now. Nobody has hid the ball. Nobody, it's all here. There was a woman on that stage last night who could absolutely be the president of the United States, and there was a man who should not be. And so what are we going to do?
You know, Donnie, we've talked for a long time on this show about people grading Trump on a curve and giving him a pass. Well, that's just Trump being Trump. You can't believe everything he says, but he wants to be president of the United States again. We're not going to grade on a curve here. We don't grade on a curve. Just objectively, based on what you saw, not only from his performance, but from hers. What's your take last night?
Trump basically told us that what the world is going to look like is that immigrants are going to eat your pets. They're going to execute babies after 9 months, and there will be no Israel. That was Donald Trump's. By the way, when asked about what he would do about the war in Gaza, his answer was, she hates Israel, there'll be no Israel. That was his solution. That's what he's had to say. Whereas Kamala Harris gave a very impassioned support of Israel, talked in great detail about the horrors of the terrorism of Hamas. And Donald Trump's answer was, there'll be no Israel. It's fear-mongering. It's nothing more than that. I watched as an American, and as an American, I was repulsed that he would not say that the election was lost. He would not put down January 6th. I watched as a father. He would not say that he would veto an abortion ban. And I watched as a Jew, and I was highly disappointed. There's a reason 3/4 of Jews are voting for Kamala Harris.
Rev, your take last night.
I think that one must look at why do you go into a presidential debate. When I ran in 2004, there was two things you do. One, you run in to win, which I knew it was unlikely I would win, or you're running to really push a vision and a way you want the country to go. Donald Trump did neither last night. He was trying to, in many ways, justify his past, try to say that 2020 was, he really won, still dealing with those grievances, and he gave no vision. Kamala Harris not only won last night, I think she won the hearts of a lot of Americans who maybe didn't understand what her vision was. She was clear on her vision. She would answer some of his statements and go right back to, but this is where we need to go as a country. And then for him to fearmonger, as Donnie said, and I agree, but also race bait. He didn't just say people are eating dogs. He said Haitian immigrants are eating dogs. Anybody black in that town looks like a Haitian. He defended what he did to the Central Park Five, and I respect Kamala Harris for raising that, because he said that these people, these 5 young teenagers, young boys, should have had the death penalty, when what happened to that woman who was a white woman in Central Park was despicable, horrific, and barbaric. But the death penalty wouldn't have even covered the crime. He went into race baiting. He repeated it last night. He went to our worst fears. And if you're looking at this debate last night and you're looking at your children, because it is about the future, and your grandchildren, who do you think has the temperament and the information to lead us during this time period where we're in such turmoil from Ukraine to the Middle East? And you would not go with the guy who's race baiting and fear mongering. You go with a stable woman who could say, yes, this is where we are and we have to address it. This is where we need to go. That is why I think she won. She won when she walked out and made him shake hands with her. And he had the nightmare of his life that he had to shake hands with a black woman as an equal. And he couldn't get it back together after that.
And we're going to play that clip, Joe, of the Central Park Five in just a moment as well, Joe.
Yeah, Will, I just wanted to tell you that Brian Stelter reporting this live on Fox. Trump insults not only the ABC anchors, Trump insults the two Fox anchors who've been pitched as debate moderators, Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum, and says he would not have them. Says he wants instead Sean Hannity, Jesse Waters, or Laura Ingraham. Back to you, Willie.
Yeah, no surprise there. Mike, as Rev says, there was a stark split screen last night. Donald Trump's performance allowed Vice President Harris to kind of sit there and look to the camera then say, do you want this again? Do you want to go back to this? Are you watching these 90 minutes? We're not going back, which has become her popular refrain, that we're not going back to this. And a literal split screen. They've never been on a stage, never met before. And as we always say, voters who are not like us, who don't live in this world and cover every twist and turn and every poll every day and all of those things, they tune in at big moments like conventions and certainly at debates. They settle in and they begin to form their opinions and make decisions. So as they settled in last night, what did they see?
Well, the visuals were stunning, the contrast between the two of them. One more permanent scowl all evening long. The other, the vice president, was a mixture of smiling almost all night long, but wonderment, looking across at the person next to her on the stage, wonderment in her eyes, and sometimes a feeling of sympathy in her eyes, as saying, you know, what is wrong with this guy? And what she was looking at, I would submit, was an old man walking himself into our political past. An old man who at one point surrendered the presidency when he was asked a question about January 6th, and his reply was, I wasn't in charge of security then. This was a former president of the United States saying he wasn't in charge of security then. Sorry, but you were. This was an old man who spent a good part of the evening once again denigrating and running down the American dream, running down the United States of America. This is a third world country. This is a country in decline. I challenge Donald Trump today, who will be down at the 9/11 ceremonies in Lower Manhattan, along with President Biden and Vice President Harris, to look around at what he sees, and he will see a portrait of resilience and remembrance by everybody down there, remembering a day that shocked America and scarred this country forever. This is not a country in decline, Donald. Take a look around.